Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shills, debt slaves, serfs, peasants, vassals. I'm Useful Eddie, welcome. And so now we have Congress unanimously approving the release of the Epstein files, and Trump has signed it. So now we're going to have all the Epstein files finally released, or will we? So let's look at the events leading up to this. Of course, 4 years under the Biden administration, the Epstein files were buried, and during the 4 years of Trump's previous administration, the Epstein files remained buried. And Trump made promises about releasing all the Epstein files during the election cycle. And then when he was in office, of course, he claimed it was all a Democratic hoax and he was going to resist releasing the Epstein files. So here we are. And I find it, of course, disingenuous that the Democrats, of all people, are complaining now that Trump is dragging his feet on these files and that he must have something to hide because, of course, under their leadership and under Biden, there was no pressure or no talk about releasing the Epstein files. So one has to consider that. And then one has to consider the fact that with all of Epstein's ties, there's a lot to be buried there, including connections to Israel. It's pretty much established. He was working for various intelligence agencies, including Mossad. And we also know that a lot of documentation through the Treasury Department and who Epstein was tied up with financially are not going to be released, and they're stonewalling on that. And then more importantly, of course, we have Epstein's brother coming out now that he talked to an insider that says that they're busy scrubbing all references to the Republicans in the Epstein files before they're released. And even Trump put a little caveat in his recent reaction to the Epstein files being released, saying that there would probably be redactions and that the documents that will be released are whatever they are legally entitled to. And so that says a lot. So I expect a lot more redactions as well. Then we have that little Democratic stunt about claiming that small release a couple weeks ago, talking about the fact that Trump's name was appeared 1,000 times in these documents and that supposedly he was aware of the girls. But we have a lot of documentation stretching back quite a few years where Virginia Giuffre, one of the victims who supposedly committed suicide, pointed out that Trump wasn't involved. She never saw him involved, and he was always very nice. And so she cleared his name. And then we also have various investigators that have come out and said that Trump was the only one that cooperated with them. And then we have the documentation of the fact that Trump definitely had some connections with Epstein over the years, but at one point had a break with him, realizing that he was trafficking young girls, and particularly after Epstein's conviction. And so Trump was quick to distance himself. And I have a feeling that a lot of this is going to backfire on the Democrats. Of course, a lot of Democratic donors, or Epstein donated to a lot of Democratic candidates. We have Bill Gates involved, we have Bill Clinton involved, and the Clintons are apparently going to be brought in for questioning. And then, of course, the fall of Larry Summers and Prince Andrew are notable examples of the damage that's already being done. But and then also it came out recently that Hakeem Jeffries, even after Epstein's conviction, was soliciting money in 2013 and made overtures to meet with Epstein for his campaign. So he doesn't have any room to talk either. And then one of the other interesting things, of course, is that in 2019, a Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, during Michael Cohen, the hearings with about Michael Cohen, she was texting Epstein in real time during those hearings, and so was trying to help navigate the hearing and supply damaging material about Trump because he was definitely against Trump. And so we have a lot of bodies already, and I think that what's going to happen is these documents will be released, or at least some of them, and they'll finally say that they're all released. And I imagine a lot of things are still going to be held back. I imagine a lot of things are going to be released that will be redacted. And because it's the Trump DOJ, and the Trump administration, there's going to be an emphasis on the transgressions of a lot of the Democrats. And so this is hardly a closure to this event. And of course, there's a lot of excuses given that they want to be very careful about protecting all the victims, and that's just something a politician would say. They're interested in protecting themselves and protecting their friends, and that's my bottom line with the Epstein files all along. That once everybody gets an idea of what's in there, they realize that there's a lot of people amongst the elites that are going to take some blows if all this material actually came out, both friend and foe, because there's a lot of guilty parties, and Epstein mingled with all the elites and catered to their salacious appetites, Clinton being a very prominent example. So anyway, I also have to ask, it's interesting that after all these years, why the Epstein files suddenly became a crucial, for the moment, crises that had to be addressed to the point where we have Congress taking this vote to have everything released. There was no urgency for the last 8 years and more. And so the timing of this is also interesting. Of course, for the Democrats, it's about finding some kind of smoking gun or more to smear Trump. And then for the Trump administration and the Trump Department of Justice, it will be about focusing in on democratic transgressions, which certainly is going to be one of the main focuses of what we do see released. So anyway, hardly closure on this issue, but an interesting political exercise. I'm a useful idiot, don't you be one too?